Ava Grace Baldwin was last seen on September 17, 2015, and is believed to have been abducted by her mother, Catherine Ann Baldwin, who has a felony warrant for interfering with child custody. Ava's parents, Catherine Baldwin and David Hopper, had a brief marriage lasting just over a month. After their separation, Catherine moved to Texas, and David, residing in Oklahoma, faced challenges in maintaining contact with his daughter. In 2013, after a custody battle, David was granted joint custody of Ava. In September 2015, Ava's elementary school contacted David, informing him that Ava had been absent for nearly 3 weeks. When authorities visited Catherine's listed address, they discovered it was an empty lot, indicating that Catherine had provided false information. Catherine Baldwin has a history of mental illness, as well as issues with substance abuse. She is supposed to take medication, but there's been no record of her refilling her prescriptions since 2015. She and Ava may move frequently and may be staying in women's shelters or homeless shelters. According to the authorities, Catherine may be telling people that she is being stalked by her ex-spouse or other individuals. In April 2016, 7 months after their disappearance, Catherine's vehicle, a silver 2014 Ford Escape, was found abandoned in a parking lot on Whitby Road in San Antonio. Despite this discovery, there have been no confirmed sightings of Ava or Catherine since 2015. David Hopper remains hopeful that Ava is alive. He said there have been sightings of the pair since they disappeared, including contact from a couple in Florida who said Catherine tried to hand over custody of Ava to them in 2016. In 2020, the San Antonio police confirmed Catherine may be using as many as a dozen aliases in her travels across the United States. Ava's case has garnered significant attention on social media platforms, with users speculating about her whereabouts. In 2022, a supposedly creepy TikTok account featuring a mother-daughter duo singing and dancing led some to believe they might be Ava and Catherine. However, investigations confirmed that the individuals in the videos were not them. As of November 2024, Ava Grace Baldwin remains missing. Her father, David Hopper, continues to search for her, holding on to hope that she is alive and will one day return home. Authorities urge anyone with information about Ava's whereabouts to contact the San Antonio Police Department. The abduction of Megumi Yakota remains one of the most haunting, unresolved cases in Japan's modern history. On November 15, 1977, the bright and cheerful 13-year-old disappeared while walking home from badminton practice in Niigata Prefecture. At the time, her family and local authorities were baffled by her sudden disappearance, suspecting a tragic accident or a crime closer to home. It would take over 2 decades for the truth to emerge. Megumi had been abducted by North Korean operatives as part of a covert program to kidnap Japanese citizens. But let's briefly discuss why this was happening first before we return to Megumi's case, specifically since I think some context is necessary here. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, North Korea carried out a systematic campaign of abductions, targeting citizens from Japan, South Korea, and other countries. The motives behind these kidnappings were multifaceted. Some abductees were forced to teach Japanese language and culture to North Korean spies. Others had their identities stolen so operatives could infiltrate Japan and other nations undetected. In some cases, the abductees were reportedly used to populate isolated communities in North Korea, providing Japanese spouses for North Korean citizens. Notably, the understanding is that these Japanese spouses would teach their children to speak Japanese at a native level, resulting in perfect infiltrators into Japanese society. The Japanese government officially recognizes 17 of its citizens as having been abducted by North Korea, though some advocacy groups believe the true number is much higher. Megumi Yakota's abduction stands out not only because of her age, she was just a schoolgirl, but also because her case became a focal point for Japan's struggle to resolve the abduction issue. Her disappearance and the subsequent revelations sparked national outrage, galvanized international support, and placed immense pressure on the Japanese government to act. On the day of her disappearance, Megumi had finished badminton practice at school and was walking home with her friends. She parted ways with them around 6 p.m., just a short distance from her home. When she failed to return, her parents began a frantic search, eventually involving local police. At first, authorities suspected she might have run away or been the victim of an accident or crime. Personally, I found this quite broad, given that a runaway, an accident, or a crime covers virtually every scenario Megumi could have been involved in. However, no clues whatsoever emerged, and the case went cold. For over 20 years, the Yakota family lived in anguish, not knowing what had happened to their daughter. It wasn't until the late 1990s that North Korean defectors began revealing details of an abduction program targeting Japanese citizens. By 2002, Megumi's name surfaced as one of the confirmed abductees, shocking her family and the Japanese public. In a groundbreaking development in 2002, then Japanese Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi visited Pyongyang for talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. During this meeting, North Korea admitted to abducting 13 Japanese citizens, including Megumi. The regime claimed that 5 of the abductees were still alive and would be returned to Japan, while the remaining 8, Megumi among them, had allegedly died. North Korea presented evidence to support these claims, including purported remains of Megumi, which they said had been cremated. However, the evidence provided by North Korea was riddled with inconsistencies. DNA testing conducted in Japan on the remains purportedly belonging to Megumi yielded inconclusive results, fueling significant skepticism. The Yakota family and the Japanese government openly challenged the credibility of North Korea's claims, arguing that the regime had a vested interest in obscuring the truth. Many Japanese citizens, moved by the Yakota's plight, began to believe that Megumi might still be alive. North Korea maintains that she ended herself in 1994 while struggling with depression while in captivity. Several reports and testimonies have fueled speculation that Megumi might still be alive. For example, some North Korean defectors have claimed to have seen her or heard about her living in North Korea in recent years. Additionally, the circumstances of her alleged death and cremation have been questioned, as they don't align with known North Korean practices. In 2014, the Japanese government reopened its investigation into Megumi's fate, sending a delegation to North Korea as part of renewed negotiations. However, the talks stalled, and no new evidence emerged to clarify her status. Bobby McKay's Music World, located in Wilder, Kentucky, is a nightclub with an allegedly storied past that intertwines music with tales of the supernatural. Established in 1978 by country singer Bobby McKay, the venue has become a focal point for paranormal investigators. The site's history dates back to the mid-19th century, though little about the property can be independently verified, given the overlay of urban legend on this story. By 1850, a large slaughterhouse and meatpacking facility was constructed on the property to serve northwestern Kentucky and nearby Cincinnati, Ohio. In the lowest part of the building, a well was dug and used to hold the material from the slaughtered animals. After the slaughterhouse closed in the 1890s, the building remained vacant for several years. In the 1920s, it was transformed into a speakeasy and casino known as the Primrose Club. The club's owner faced pressure from organized crime figures and eventually ended himself. In the 1950s, the building operated as a nightclub called the Latin Quarter, which was reportedly the scene of several violent incidents, including a slaying. The establishment closed its doors in the 1970s, leaving the building vacant until Bobby Mackey purchased it. Bobby sought to create a venue where he could perform and share his passion for country music. He opened Bobby Mackey's Music World in September 1978, offering live music, dancing, and entertainment. Over the years, Bobby Mackey's Music World has gained a reputation as one of America's most haunted locations. Numerous visitors and employees have reported unexplained phenomena, leading to widespread interest from paranormal enthusiasts. One of the most persistent legends involves the spirit of Pearl Bryan, a young woman who was slain in 1896. Her body was found in a field near Fort Thomas, Kentucky, and her head was never recovered. Some believe that those responsible were involved in occult practices and disposed of her head in the well located in the basement of what is now this haunted honky-tonk. This well has since been dubbed the Portal to Hell by some paranormal investigators. Another tale speaks of a dancer named Joanna who allegedly performed at the Latin Quarter in the 1950s. According to the legend, Joanna fell in love with a singer at the club and became pregnant. Her father, enraged by the relationship, is said to have slain the singer. Devastated, Joanna purportedly poisoned her father and then voluntarily ended herself. Some patrons and staff claim to have encountered her spirit, describing the scent of roses and the sound of a female voice singing in the club. The building's basement, particularly the area surrounding the well, is often cited as a hotspot for paranormal activity. Visitors have reported hearing disembodied voices, experiencing sudden cold spots, and witnessing objects moving on their own. Perhaps most disturbingly, some have apparently claimed to see eyes moving in the so-called portal to hell. In March 2024, Bobby Mackey's Music World closed its Wilder location. The owners announced plans to temporarily relocate to a site in Florence, Kentucky, while the original building is demolished and a new facility is constructed. Notably, the well in the basement, often referred to as the Portal to Hell, is set to be relocated to the new site. Whether the ghoulish entities will follow along remains to be seen. Also, big shout out to patron Kevin Potts for this great suggestion. If you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below, or join up on the Discord server and leave them there directly. The Meister Footprint is a controversial artifact that has intrigued both enthusiasts and skeptics since its discovery in 1968. Found by William J. Meister near Antelope Springs, Utah, this fossil appears to depict a human-like shoe print containing trilobite fossils. These organisms thrived approximately 500 million years ago during the Cambrian period. Meister, an amateur fossil hunter, was exploring the Wheeler Shale Formation when he split open a slab of rock, revealing what seemed to be a sandal print. Within this impression were two trilobite fossils, one of which appeared to be crushed, suggesting it was stepped on while still alive. This finding was particularly provocative because it implied that humans existed during the Cambrian period, a notion that contradicts established scientific understanding of human evolution. The Meister print quickly gained attention amongst creationists and proponents of alternative historical theories, who viewed it as evidence supporting the coexistence of humans and ancient life. They argued that such a fossil challenges the conventional timeline of human evolution and supports the idea of a young Earth. However, the scientific community has completely dismissed these claims. Paleontologists and geologists have examined the Meister footprint and concluded that the formation is a natural geological occurrence rather than a human footprint. They attribute its appearance to a process known as spall formation, where layers of rock flake off, creating shapes that can resemble footprints or other familiar forms. The presence of trilobite fossils within these formations is consistent with the known fossil record of the area, which is rich in Cambrian-era marine life. Further scrutiny revealed that similar impressions are common in the Wheeler Shale Formation, many of which do not contain trilobites. This suggests that the impressions are not footprints, but rather natural depressions formed by geological processes. Additionally, the supposed heel and toe area of the print lack the anatomical details expected in a genuine footprint, such as consistent depth and pressure patterns. While the human brain is adept at recognizing patterns, leading to phenomena like pareidolia, where random stimuli are perceived as significant, scientific analysis requires rigorous testing and evidence. In the case of the Meister print, the consensus is that it is a natural formation, coincidentally resembling a footprint, with the trilobite's presence being a result of the area's rich fossil content. I find the Meister print to be a somewhat amusing case of seeing what we want in random patterns. The idea that a Cambrian-era quote-unquote sandal squashed a trilobite is like imagining dinosaurs wearing party hats based upon finding conical fossils near dinosaur fossils. It's fun, but absurd. Woo In-hee was a prominent North Korean actress who rose to fame during the 1970s, known for her exceptional talent and striking beauty. She was celebrated as one of the leading figures in North Korean cinema, a field tightly controlled and shaped by the regime of Kim Jong-il, the future leader of North Korea. However, Woo In-hee's legacy is not only tied to her career, but also to the scandalous and tragic events that surrounded her life, particularly her rumored affair with Kim Jong-il. Born in the mid-20th century, Woo In-hee entered adulthood during a time when North Korea was consolidating its cultural identity. The exact details of her early life remain murky due to the secretive nature of North Korea, but it is believed that she came from a relatively privileged background. This privilege likely allowed her to pursue an acting career, a rare opportunity in such a restrictive society. North Korean cinema, under the strict control of the Workers' Party of Korea, was designed to glorify the regime, promote ideologically compatible beliefs, and exalt the Kim family. Woo In-hee's beauty and charisma made her a perfect candidate for such roles. By the 1970s, she had become a household name in North Korea, starring in films that depicted heroic revolutionaries, virtuous women, and loyal citizens. These films were propaganda tools meant to inspire devotion to the state and its leaders, but for Woo, they also brought immense personal fame and attention. Kim Jong-il, the son of North Korea's founding leader Kim Il-sung, had a personal obsession with film. He considered cinema the most powerful art form for shaping public opinion and instilling ideological loyalty. As head of the propaganda department, Kim Jong-il oversaw every aspect of North Korean filmmaking, from scriptwriting to casting. His deep involvement created a strange and oppressive environment for actors, directors, and other artists. Under Kim's watchful eye, Woo In-hee emerged as one of the most prominent figures in this cultural machine. Her roles often reflected the regime's ideals: unwavering loyalty to the state, sacrifice for the greater good, and moral purity. Off-screen, however, her life would soon take a turn that challenged these very ideals. Rumors of Woo In-hee's affair with Kim Jong-il began to circulate in the late 1970s. At the time, Kim Jong-il was already married to Kim Young-suk and had begun cultivating his public image as a capable successor to his father. Despite this, he was known for his indulgent lifestyle, which reportedly included a penchant for alone time with beautiful actresses and singers. Woo In-hee, with her fame and allure, became one of his most high-profile romantic conquests. The relationship between Woo In-hee and Kim Jong-il was not merely a private matter. it was entangled with the political and social fabric of North Korea. In a regime where loyalty to the leader was paramount, personal relationships with members of the Kim family came with significant risks. Woo's association with Kim likely elevated her status within certain circles, but also made her vulnerable to the whims of the dictator and his inner circle. The exact circumstances that led to Woo In-hee's downfall remain a closely guarded secret, as with most stories involving the North Korean elite. Some reports suggest that she fell out of favor with Kim Jong-il after their affair ended. Others speculate that she may have been accused of disloyalty or inappropriate behavior, charges that were often fabricated in North Korea to justify purges. Other reports indicate that she told individuals about the nature of her affair with Kim Jong-il. What is known is that Woo In-hee was executed in the early 1980s. Accounts of Woo's execution vary, with some claiming that she was publicly humiliated before her death. The most famous story indicates that she was paraded in front of 6,000 students of a North Korean military academy, where her husband, a film director, was present. After being publicly berated, she was tied to a post and subsequently slain by a firing squad for all to see, and as a sick display of power by Kim Jong-il and the North Korean state. Keith Ratliff, a firearms enthusiast and co-owner of FPS Industries Global, was found lifeless on January 3, 2013, at his business premises in Carnesville, Georgia. Ratliff's passing quickly garnered widespread attention due to his association with FPS Russia, a massively popular YouTube channel dedicated to showcasing firearms and explosives. Ratliff's body was discovered by an employee who arrived at the FPS Industries facility. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office responded to the scene and immediately sought assistance from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, better known as the GBI. Investigators spent over 24 hours meticulously examining the premises, aiming to uncover any evidence that might lead to the perpetrator. Ratliff had suffered a single gunshot wound to the head, a detail later confirmed by the coroner's report. There were no signs of forced entry, and some firearms and surveillance equipment were missing. The absence of visible signs of struggle led authorities to consider that Ratliff might have known his assailant. This theory, coupled with his role in the firearms industry and online presence, suggested a potentially complex motive behind the crime. Notably, he was instrumental in the operations of FPS Russia, a YouTube channel boasting millions of subscribers at the time. The channel featured its host, Kyle Myers, performing demonstrations of various firearms and explosives in a comedic and theatrical manner with an exaggerated fake Russian accent. Ratliff's role involved sourcing and managing the legal logistics for the high-powered weaponry featured on the channel. Despite the high-profile nature of the case, law enforcement faced significant hurdles in identifying the perpetrator. The GBI, along with federal agencies like the FBI and the ATF, launched an extensive investigation. However, progress was hampered by the lack of witnesses, clear motives, and concrete evidence. Investigators combed through Ratliff's personal and professional connections, including his work in the firearms industry and potential conflicts arising from FPS Russia's high-profile status. One theory proposed that Ratliff's death could be linked to his involvement in the firearms trade, as the weapons featured in FPS Russia videos were often rare and valuable. Additionally, his role in managing firearms procurement may have placed him in contact with potentially dangerous individuals. Notably, the investigation revealed that some of Ratliff's firearms and surveillance equipment were missing from the FPS Industries facility. This raised questions about whether the missing items were part of a targeted robbery or if they were intentionally removed to obfuscate the crime. Ratliff's friends and family remain adamant that he wouldn't have allowed someone he didn't trust into the facility, adding credence to the theory that the assailant might have been someone he knew. The news of Ratliff's death sent shockwaves through both the firearms community and FPS Russia's massive fan base. More than a decade later, Ratliff's case remains unsolved, with no arrests or significant breakthroughs reported. Authorities have repeatedly urged the public to come forward with any information that might assist in solving the case. If you have any information in relation to this case, please contact the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. The Grand Grimoire, also known as the Red Dragon, is one of the most infamous grimoires in occult history. Known for its association with black magic, it's said to contain powerful rituals for summoning demons and forming pacts. While some editions date the manuscript as far back as 1521 or 1522, historians argue the text is likely from the early 18th century. The text's authorship is attributed to one Antonio del Rabina, though little is known about this figure or whether he's even a historical person. Like many grimoires, it claims to have roots in the writings of King Solomon, a legendary figure often linked to magical wisdom. According to the Grand Grimoire, Antonio del Rabina wasn't actually the author of the book, but rather, he transcribed a text which was written by Solomon himself. This practice of connecting magical texts to ancient, authoritative sources was common and helped establish the book's credibility. The Grand Grimoire is divided into two main sections, each detailing specific magical practices. The first section outlines the evocation of Lucifuge Rofacal, described as a high-ranking demon serving under Lucifer himself. The text provides instructions on summoning Lucifuge and negotiating a pact, often aimed at acquiring wealth or worldly power. The second section deals with the specifics of making and sealing these demonic pacts. It explains the tools, rituals, and evocations necessary for the process, emphasizing the need for strict adherence to the outlined steps. Aside from its focus on demonology, the grimoire contains a variety of spells and rituals meant to address other desires. These include rites for love, invisibility, and communicating with the dead. Each spell typically requires specific tools, such as consecrated candles, engraved symbols, and protective circles, reflecting common elements in European occult practices of the period. These spells are presented with detailed instructions, underscoring the manuscript's emphasis on precision and ritualistic discipline. While its content draws heavily from earlier grimoires, such as the Grimoire of Pope Honorius, the Grand Grimoire gained a distinct reputation. Some have referred to it as the most dangerous grimoire, a claim rooted in its bold approach to summoning demons and securing power. Notably, unlike other grimoires which dedicate significant time to protecting the magician, the Grand Grimoire dispenses simply gets down to the business of raw acquisition of power. Its reputation as a manual for black magic has been both a source of fascination and controversy. The Catholic Church, for instance, has allegedly condemned it, and legends claim the original manuscript resides in the Vatican's secret archives. Occult practitioners today view it as both a practical guide and a historical artifact. Some believe its rituals and spells hold genuine power, while others see it as a symbolic or psychological tool. Still others view it as a dangerous tome which doesn't offer adequate protection for the high-level magic it has on offer. The Pokemon franchise has captivated millions of fans worldwide since its inception in the 1990s. Among the countless memorable aspects of the series, few have sparked as much intrigue, debate, and mystery as Lavender Town Syndrome. This is an infamous urban legend claiming that a particular piece of music in the original Pokemon games caused severe psychological and physical distress in children. Before delving into the specifics of Lavender Town Syndrome, it's essential to understand its context. Lavender Town is a location in the original Pokemon Red and Green games, released in Japan in 1996. Unlike other towns in the game, which feature upbeat music and cheerful residents, Lavender Town stands out for its eerie atmosphere. The town serves as the setting for a Pokemon graveyard, where players encounter ghostly creatures and deal with themes of loss and the afterlife. Needless to say, this was a striking and somewhat unusual tonal shift in an otherwise extremely lighthearted game. Central to the legend is the town's unsettling background music, composed by Junichi Masuda. The melody is built around haunting, dissonant tones that evoke feelings of unease. For many players, particularly children, Lavender Town became a memorable and sometimes disturbing experience. This atmosphere laid the groundwork for the urban legend that would emerge years later. The Lavender Town Syndrome myth first gained traction around 2010, fueled by the creepypasta phenomenon where horror-related urban legends are presented as factual. According to the tale, shortly after the release of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, there was an alarming increase in severe illnesses among children aged 7 to 12. The legend attributes these incidents to the original Lavender Town music, which allegedly included high-frequency sounds detectable only by young ears. These frequencies were said to cause headaches, anxiety, depression, and, in extreme cases, the tendency to want to leave it all behind, if you catch my drift. Some versions of the story claim that Nintendo became aware of these effects and quietly altered the music for international releases. Others allege that spectrogram analyses of the original audio revealed sinister imagery, including ghostly figures and words urging the player to leave the town. Despite its chilling narrative, Lavender Town Syndrome is widely regarded as a fabrication. No credible evidence supports the claims of mass illnesses linked to the game's music. Searches of contemporary Japanese health records don't indicate any flare-ups in childhood illnesses whatsoever. Further, no official reports suggest that Nintendo altered the Lavender Town theme to address such concerns. Experts in audio and psychology have also debunked the idea that the Lavender Town music could cause harm. While certain frequencies can induce discomfort or irritation, they are unlikely to provoke severe psychological effects. Deep within the uncharted waters of the Congo River Basin lies a legendary creature that sparked fear, curiosity, and intrigue for well over a century. The Mahamba, a massive crocodilian cryptid, has long been whispered about by local tribes and explorers. Described as a giant aquatic predator capable of taking down hippos and canoes, the Mahamba straddles the line between folklore and terrifying possibility. The Mahamba is often described as a colossal crocodile creature, far larger than any known species of crocodile. While the Nile crocodile is already an imposing predator, reaching lengths of 16 to 20 feet, the Mahamba reportedly dwarfs even this apex predator. Witness accounts suggest it measures up to 50 feet long, with a serpentine body and a head that resembles both a crocodile and a snake. This hybrid description has led to speculation about whether it might be a surviving member of a prehistoric species, like the long-extinct Deinosuchus. Unlike most crocodilians, which are ambush predators relying on stealth, the Mahamba is said to be openly aggressive. The dense labyrinthine waterways of the Congo River Basin are the ideal setting for a creature like the Mahamba to remain hidden. This vast network of rivers, swamps, and forests is one of the least explored regions on Earth, with much of its biodiversity still unknown to science. The murky waters and impenetrable vegetation make it a haven for elusive animals, some of which may only emerge occasionally, evading human detection for centuries. The Congo Basin is also home to other cryptids, such as the Mokele Mbembe, a dinosaur-like creature said to inhabit its remote lakes. These cryptids share common themes. They are aquatic or semi-aquatic, massive in size, and known to attack humans or animals that encroach on their territory. The local tribes treat these creatures with a deep respect, often weaving them into their cultural beliefs and practices. The Mahamba first came to the attention of Western audiences through accounts from explorers and missionaries in the 19th and early 20th centuries. In the late 1880s, a European employee of the Congo Free State reported seeing the Mahamba himself. These stories were generally dismissed as exaggerations or misidentifications of large crocodiles. The Mahamba's legend has sparked a range of theories, from the plausible to the fantastical. On the more grounded side, some believe the Mahamba could simply be a case of mistaken identity. Giant Nile crocodiles, particularly in remote areas where they can grow to their full size, may have been exaggerated in retellings. A particularly aggressive or unusually large individual could easily inspire stories of a monstrous predator. Another explanation is that the Mahamba represents a surviving member of a prehistoric species. The idea of living fossils isn't entirely far-fetched. Animals like the coelacanth, a fish thought to have gone extinct 66 million years ago, were rediscovered in the 20th century. Given the Congo Basin's inaccessibility and biodiversity, it's not impossible that a large, previously unknown crocodilian species could exist there. More speculative theories suggest the Mahamba might not be a natural creature at all, but a supernatural being tied to local spiritual beliefs. In this interpretation, the Mahamba could be seen as a guardian of the waterways, or a symbol of nature's wrath against human encroachment. These interpretations, while non-scientific, highlight the deep cultural significance of the creature and its connection to the people who live in its supposed habitat. In Buddhist cosmology, the concept of Preta, commonly known as hungry ghosts, represents beings tormented by insatiable hunger and thirst. Originating from Sanskrit, the term Preta translates to departed or deceased. But within Buddhist teachings, it specifically denotes spirits suffering due to past misdeeds, particularly greed. These beings are depicted with emaciated bodies, small mouth-like structures, narrow necks, and distended bellies, symbolizing their unending cravings and the futility of their desires. The portrayal of hungry ghosts serves as a moral lesson within Buddhism, emphasizing the consequences of excessive greed, jealousy, and selfishness. By depicting the Preta as beings suffering from unfulfilled desires, Buddhist teachings encourage adherents to cultivate virtues such as generosity, compassion, and detachment from desire. The concept of the hungry ghost integrated itself throughout East Asia as Buddhism spread. As Buddhism spread to China, the concept of Preta was integrated into local beliefs. In Chinese Buddhism, these spirits are believed to inhabit a realm between humans and hell, suffering from extreme hunger and thirst as retribution for their past actions. The Hungry Ghost Festival, or Zhongyuan Festival, held on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, is an event where offerings of food, incense, and money are made to appease these spirits. In Japan, the concept of Preta was adopted as the Gaki, maintaining the notion of spirits tormented by insatiable hunger. The Obon Festival, celebrated in mid-August, is a time when families honor their ancestors, believing that the spirits return to the world of the living during this period. While Obon primarily focuses on ancestral spirits, the influence of the Gaki concept is evident in the rituals performed to ensure that all spirits, including hungry ghosts, are appeased. Monks often chant sutras and make offerings to prevent these spirits from causing harm. In Korea, the concept of hungry ghosts, known as agui, is influenced by both Buddhist and indigenous shamanistic traditions. These spirits are believed to arise from unfulfilled desires, excessive greed, or unresolved karmic debt in their past lives. Like in China and Japan, Agui are depicted as tormented beings with insatiable cravings, reflecting moral lessons about the dangers of attachment and selfishness. Rituals to appease the Agui are performed during Buddhist ceremonies and commonly include food offerings and prayers, as well as the burning of incense. However, the Korean conception of hungry ghosts is also influenced by shamanism, where some believe shamanistic practices can permanently alleviate the suffering of deceased relatives. Buasjukan was a series of hip joint problems reported between 1982 and 1983 in the vicinity of Bua, a locality in Halland County, Sweden. The condition predominantly affected young women, who accounted for approximately 85% of the cases. The initial case, however, involved a young man in October 1982. Despite thorough medical investigations, no definitive cause was identified, and the reports eventually subsided. Those afflicted, mainly young female students, experienced hip pain, inflammation, limited mobility, and difficulties walking. School health services typically provided crutches, and in some instances, treatments like traction were administered. Generally, symptoms resolved after a period of rest without further intervention. After about 5 months, no new cases were reported. Medical professionals were unable to determine a clear medical explanation for the phenomenon. Initially, a viral infection was suspected, but extensive testing, including analyses conducted at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States, found no evidence supporting this. Some experts concluded that the illness was psychosomatic, attributing it to a mass hysteria. However, other medical experts believed that a genuine viral infection might have been present despite the lack of detectable viruses, given the observed inflammation. The idea that North Korea is a utopia is a relatively new theory that's been spreading online. I have a feeling I'll be saying this a lot during this section, but I can't tell if this one is intended to be ironic or not. Seriously, we've already covered 2 cases of brutal actions partaken in by the North Korean state in this section of the iceberg already. This theory portrays North Korea as a near-perfect society, contrary to the widespread narrative of oppression, poverty, and dictatorship. Supporters of this view point to several aspects of North Korea's self-image and the experiences shared by certain visitors as evidence of its utopian qualities. First and foremost, North Korea promotes itself as a state built on the principles of Juche, a self-reliance philosophy founded by Kim Il-sung. The government presents the country as one that is free from foreign control, where its citizens live in harmony, enjoying equal access to essential services such as healthcare and education. In this narrative, North Korea is seen as a model of socialist idealism that has successfully resisted the excesses of capitalism. The country's closed-off nature only intensifies this portrayal, as foreign media is heavily restricted, allowing the regime to control the story told to the outside world. This propaganda has significantly contributed to the myth of North Korea as a utopian state. The theory is bolstered by orchestrated displays of national unity and grandeur, such as the mass parades and performances that North Korea is famous for. These events, involving hundreds of thousands of participants, are carefully crafted spectacles designed to showcase the strength, beauty, and discipline of the nation. The artistic performances are not just for show, but serve a deeper function of legitimizing the regime. These stage performances blend art and politics, creating a convincing illusion of a disciplined and content society. To the outside observer who buys into this theory, it can seem as though North Korea has managed to cultivate an unusually strong sense of national pride and unity. Another aspect that fuels the utopian narrative is the experience of some foreign visitors. Tourists allowed into the country under highly controlled conditions often report seeing pristine streets, modern infrastructure, and well-dressed citizens. These carefully curated tours aim to project an image of prosperity and contentment, presenting North Korea as a well-ordered society free from the problems of the capitalist world. While the experiences of these visitors are artificial, they contribute to the perception of North Korea as a place that has solved many societal problems that still plague other nations. Moreover, some advocates of the North Korean utopia theory argue that the country's isolation from global economic systems has protected its citizens from the exploitation seen in capitalist societies. They assert that North Korea has developed independently and maintains a society where resources are distributed fairly and equitably, ensuring access to housing, education, and healthcare. However, the theory is not without what I would call some very glaring contradictions. Those who claim North Korea is a utopia must reconcile it with the numerous reports of human rights abuses, mass starvation, and political oppression that have emerged from defectors. Given the obvious abuses of the North Korean state, some have suggested that this theory should be taken as satirical, though as always Poe's law applies. Also, I should also mention that there is another even more extreme version of this theory, which in essence simply accepts all North Korean propaganda as true. According to this theory, North Korea is in essence a heaven on earth, while everywhere else is a capitalist hellscape. In this theory, defectors from North Korea aren't actually leaving because of poor conditions, but are North Korean patriots who leave the country on a mission to tarnish North Korea. According to this theory, these defectors exist to make sure that the only people who arrive in North Korea are people who are smart enough to see through the propaganda. Again, it's unclear to what extent that people actually believe this theory, and once again, Poe's law very much applies. The concept of the Wiedergänger has its roots in Germanic folklore, where the dead were believed to possess the potential to return to the world of the living. These entities were not mindless zombies, but were often depicted as driven by unresolved emotions or unfinished business. The term itself comes from Middle High German, combining wieder, meaning again, and gehen, to walk, literally meaning to walk again. Unlike some representations of the undead, Wiedergänger were typically tied to a specific grievance or act of vengeance. In early Germanic pagan traditions, the boundary between the living and the dead was considered porous. The dead could influence the world of the living, and improper burial practices, unresolved disputes, or violent deaths were thought to increase the likelihood of a return. The Wiedergänger's cultural depiction evolved over centuries, reflecting the changing societal attitudes toward death, justice, and the supernatural. In the Middle Ages, these revenants often served as moral cautionary tales. The Wiedergänger was frequently associated with individuals who had committed sins or crimes, their return serving as divine punishment or retribution for unresolved moral failings. This association is evident in medieval accounts that describe revenants as monstrous and grotesque, sometimes carrying physical evidence of their manner of death. The Wiedergänger differs from other undead creatures like zombies or vampires in its motivation and actions. While zombies are often depicted as mindless and vampires as predatory and seductive, Wiedergänger are typically driven by specific personal motivations. They might seek vengeance against those who wronged them, protect something valuable, or exact justice for their untimely death. This makes them more human in their intentions, but no less terrifying in their actions. Physically, the Wiedergänger was often described as decayed and ghastly, though accounts vary. In some traditions, they retained a semblance of their former appearance, making their return even more unsettling. Also, as many of you who are longtime watchers of my channel may know, I am indeed a gamer. I first encountered the concept of the Wiedergänger in Battle Brothers, where they were responsible for wiping more than a few of my mercenary bands. Mastema is a figure in ancient Jewish literature, particularly prominent in the Book of Jubilees. His name derives from the Hebrew word meaning hatred or hostility. In these texts, Mastema is depicted as an angel or demon who carries out God's punishments, tempts humans, and tests their faith. In the Book of Jubilees, Mastema is portrayed as the leader of the Nephilim, the offspring of the fallen angels known as the Watchers and human women. When God decides to eliminate the demons after the flood, Mastema intervenes, requesting permission to retain and control a tenth of them to corrupt and lead humans astray. God grants this request, allowing Mastema to continue to test humans with his permission. Mastema's role extends to various biblical narratives, though this is by tradition rather than direct reference. He is said to have counseled God to test Abraham by commanding him to eliminate Isaac, mirroring the role of Satan in the Book of Job. Additionally, Mastema is credited with aiding the Egyptians against Moses and attempting to kill him, as well as assisting Pharaoh's magicians in opposing Moses and Aaron. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, Mastema is referred to as the angel of disaster, the father of all evil, and a flatterer of God. These texts suggest that Mastema continues to operate under God's authority, executing divine judgments and testing human faith. Notably, some have argued that Mastema may be a specific name or title of Satan, or perhaps even a separate facet of Satan acting at different times and places. The argument that Mastema is a facet of Satan stems from their overlapping roles in testing humanity, fostering enmity, and carrying out divine punishments. While Mastema and Satan are distinct figures in some texts, their functions align closely. This suggests Mastema could represent an early or alternative conceptualization of Satan, particularly in Jewish traditions. The Xia Dynasty, traditionally regarded as China's first dynasty, occupies a unique and significant position in Chinese cultural history. Believed to have ruled from approximately 2070 BC to 1600 BC, the Xia is often presented as a pivotal foundational period, predating the well-documented Shang Dynasty. However, the question of whether the Xia Dynasty was a historical reality or a mythological construct remains a subject of ongoing debate among scholars. The Xia Dynasty holds an esteemed place in traditional Chinese historiography. It's portrayed as the first hereditary dynasty in Chinese history, marking a significant transition from the semi-mythical era of sage kings to a structured and centralized state system. Ancient texts like the records of the Grand Historian by Sima Qian, written in the 2nd century BC, describe the Xia Dynasty as having been founded by Yu the Great. Yu is lauded for his extraordinary engineering achievements, particularly his success in controlling the devastating floods of the Yellow River. This is a deadly natural phenomenon that profoundly influenced Chinese civilization. The Xia is credited with introducing early forms of political organization, including hereditary succession and a rudimentary bureaucracy. These elements would later underpin the governance of subsequent Chinese dynasties. Beyond its administrative role, the Xia Dynasty has a profound cultural significance. Its story is imbued with values central to Chinese identity, such as filial piety, meritocracy, and harmony with nature, aligning closely with Confucian ideals. As the purported beginning of historical Chinese civilization, the Xia provides a sense of continuity, linking the mythical origins of Chinese society to historically documented dynasties. Although the Xia Dynasty's historicity has been a matter of debate, certain strands of evidence lend credence to its existence as a historical reality. Among the most compelling pieces of evidence are archaeological discoveries. that align with the timeline and descriptions of the Xia Dynasty. The early Tu culture, discovered in Henan province and dated to approximately 1900 to 1500 BC, is frequently associated with the Xia. The remains at the Erlitou site reveal evidence of urbanization, bronze metallurgy, and social stratification, all indicative of a complex and hierarchical society consistent with an early state. Notably, archaeological continuity was observed between the Erlitou culture and the Shang Dynasty, which is the first Chinese dynasty that's universally accepted by historians. The Shang appears to have emerged from a cultural and technological foundation, akin to that found at Erlitou. This continuity suggests the existence of a preceding centralized polity that bridged the gap between Neolithic cultures and the Shang dynasty. Some also argue the Xia narrative aligns with patterns of early state formation observed in other river valley civilizations, such as those in Mesopotamia and Egypt. These civilizations often developed centralized political systems as a response to environmental and economic pressures. The Xia's story fits into this broader global pattern, lending plausibility to the idea of its historicity. Additionally, some details from ancient texts, such as Yu the Great's flood control efforts, find parallels in archaeological evidence of water management systems in the Yellow River Basin. These overlaps between textual and physical evidence strengthen the argument for the Xia's existence. Despite the evidence supporting the Xia dynasty's historicity, significant challenges remain. Critics argue that the Xia is more a product of myth and political ideology than a reflection of historical reality. A key weakness in the case for the Xia's historicity is the absence of contemporary written records. Unlike the Shang dynasty, which left behind an extensive corpus of oracle bones and inscriptions, the Xia has no direct written evidence to corroborate its existence. All accounts of the Xia come from texts compiled many centuries or even millennia after its supposed era, raising serious doubts about their reliability. Furthermore, many elements of the Xia narrative bear strong mythological overtones. Yu the Great, the founder of the dynasty, is depicted as possessing superhuman abilities, particularly in his ability to tame floods through sheer determination and divine support. These qualities place him in the realm of mythical heroes rather than historical figures. The seamless transition from the legendary sage kings, such as Yao and Shun, to Yu and the Xia dynasty suggests a continuation of mythological storytelling. The political motives of later historians further cloud the Xia's historicity. The story of the Xia gained prominence during the Zhou dynasty, running from 1046 to 256 BC. This was a period when legitimizing hereditary rule was critical for the Zhou for maintaining their authority. The Zhou rulers may have retroactively constructed the Xia narrative as a precedent to justify their own rule, presenting themselves as rightful inheritors of a divinely sanctioned mandate. The records of the Grand Historian, while an invaluable historical resource, frequently blends myth with documented history, reflecting the ideological aims of its time. Even the archaeological evidence linking the Xia to the Erlitou culture is not definitive. While the Erlitou site demonstrates the characteristics of an advanced society, there's no explicit evidence tying it to a centralized Xia state. Some scholars argue that Erlitou represents an early phase of the Shang dynasty, or an independent polity unrelated to the Xia. The debate over the Xia dynasty's existence reflects broader issues in the interpretation of Chinese history. Regardless of its historical authenticity, the Xia narrative serves essential ideological and cultural functions. It acts as a foundational myth, establishing the concept of the mandate of heaven, a key political philosophy that legitimized the rise and fall of rulers based on their moral conduct. The Xia's story provides a framework for understanding the cyclical nature of Chinese dynastic rule. illustrating the consequences of virtuous and corrupt governance. In addition to its ideological significance, the Sha plays a vital role in fostering national identity. It reinforces a sense of historical continuity and cultural uniqueness, portraying China as a civilization with deep and enduring roots. In modern times, the Xia Dynasty is frequently invoked as part of the 5,000 years of Chinese history narrative, emphasizing China's status as one of the world's oldest civilizations. Meme magic is a concept that attributes influence and significance to internet memes beyond their surface-level humor. The idea revolves around memes having the potential to shape reality by spreading ideas quickly and creating a sense of collective identity. Memes are more than just funny images with captions. They act as a form of digital communication that can have a real cultural impact. This concept gained traction in online communities, where memes are treated almost like digital charms that can influence events through widespread sharing and collective belief. The phenomenon of meme magic arises from the way memes leverage humor, shared cultural references, and visual appeal to create a sense of belonging among people. Memes often contain layers of meaning that resonate with specific audiences, forming an in-group language that reinforces bonds. The repetition and adaptation of memes across different contexts amplify their influence as they evolve based on cultural trends. This process makes memes seem like they're not just responding to culture but actively shaping it, which is where the concept of magic comes into play. The supposed effectiveness of meme magic lies in the emotional and psychological appeal of memes. Memes often evoke humor or provoke reactions that make them memorable and shareable. They work as a tool to simplify complex ideas into digestible, relatable content, which makes them more impactful than other forms of online communication. The rapid spread of memes and their tendency to create inside jokes contribute to a sense of community, giving people a way to connect through shared humor and experiences. In online spaces, meme magic has been linked to elements of modern mysticism, such as chaos magic, where symbols are believed to gain power through collective belief. Some theorists argue that the effectiveness and power of meme magic is suppressed by elites. They argue that powerful entities, such as governments or corporate interests, fear the influence memes have on public opinion and social movements. By controlling online platforms, these elites allegedly limit the spread of memes that could threaten their power. Peking Man, a crucial discovery in the history of human evolution, was found in the Zhoukoudian cave system near Beijing during the 1920s and 1930s. These fossils, dubbed Peking Man, have become one of the most significant paleoanthropological finds. The first discovery at Zhoukoudian was made in 1921, when a human tooth was unearthed by Austrian paleontologist Otto Zadansky. Further excavations revealed an array of fossils, including skull fragments, jaws, and limb bones, belonging to more than 40 individuals. These remains were eventually classified as Homo erectus pekinensis, a subspecies of Homo erectus that lived roughly between 200 and 800,000 years ago. These fossils showed that Peking Man had a brain capacity smaller than modern humans, but larger than earlier hominids. The Zhoukoudian site yielded over 100,000 stone tools, evidence of fire use, and possible signs of communal living. These findings suggested that Peking Man was a hunter-gatherer with the ability to adapt to the harsh conditions of northern China during the glacial periods. Despite ongoing debates, it is widely believed that these early humans had some form of social structure and were capable of controlling fire. In 1941, with the Japanese invasion of China escalating, there was a growing concern for the safety of the Peking Man fossils. American and Chinese scientists decided to transport the fossils to the United States for safekeeping. They packed the fossils into 2 large crates, which were supposed to be shipped from the marine base at Qinhuangdao to the U.S. The crates disappeared en route, and their fate has remained one of the great mysteries in the field of paleoanthropology. Multiple theories have surfaced over the years. One theory, particularly popular in China but not well known in the West, is the idea that the Peking Man fossils showed humanity arose out of China rather than out of Africa. This theory generally suggests that the bones were intentionally destroyed by the Japanese or American agents to cover up this fact. One suggests that the crates were lost at sea after the ship transporting them was sunk by a submarine. Another posits that the crates were captured by Japanese soldiers and the bones either destroyed or lost in the chaos of war. Yet another theory, spurred by an account from the son of a U.S. Marine, suggests that the bones may still be buried beneath a parking lot in Qinhuangdao. The Peking Man fossil's disappearance has led to a slew of investigations, with some involving official agencies like the FBI. Other investigations have taken more unconventional routes, such as employing psychics. Despite numerous expeditions and studies, the actual location of the fossils remains unknown. If you want to support my work further, please consider checking out the YouTube membership or Patreon. You can support for as little as $1 a month. The links are available in the description of this video,